And what is traditional training? We know the weightlifting movements, we all utilize them. Power cleans, power snatches, the different variations of jerks, the squat, bench, and dead. They're all amazing. We know the research, we know the benefits of what it can do for athletes. And so why are weightlifting movements important? And so when you start looking at what they can provide, obviously the amount of rate force development is just incredible in the impulse. And so we can use one movement to create max forces. And also we know that if you don't put intent into the bar, you will not make the lift. It's ground based. So we know that an athlete dunking from the free throw line might take off with 3 to 4 times his body weight on one leg. We need to be strong through the ground to create extension. It's time efficient. If coach says, hey, you got 30 minutes get your session done, you got 20 minutes, you know what? It's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck. And also, we know the hypertrophy and synchronization that it provides with muscular coordination. So there's huge benefits to Olympic weightlifting. This chart right here from Garhammer, dating back to the 80s, shows you the force curve that it can create, the wattage in the Olympic lifts. You can see the second pull, the snatch, the clean, and the jerk, how much greater it is than even the traditional movements, which we know how are important to our development physically for our athletes. So that's a little touch on the traditional training, which we're all great at. And I'm going to go a little bit back into in season. And so this right here is our periodization actually from this year alone in SEC play. And you look at it, it looks like a lot of numbers. I know all of us are really great with numbers. This is what we do and what we learned. You can see the level of intensity that kind of break it down in 7 different classifications, and I'll get to that later, from very easy to very hard. For our weightlifting reps or Olympic schemes, it's going to be from starters maybe only doing 3 sets all the way up to 7 or 8, touching percentages 60 to 87.5%. And from a traditional standpoint, anywhere from 3 to 6 to 7 sets and touching up from 60 to 85%. So this you can kind of see, which will make more sense when I put a graph of how there's ebb and flows of the cycle of how to build out the programming for a blend of the weightlifting traditional. So we've all seen this chart, and it's obviously important for all of us to understand, the general prep phase. We have a lot of athletes that maybe come in and have never trained at all. And so they need to get this general prep phase so you can see the endurance, the sets and rep schemes, what percentage we're going to work at, and what's our outcomes right there. The hypertrophy phase, which, some athletes might need more than others in this phase. And so, okay, if this guy needs to add a little bit of hypertrophy, I'm going to do this with some BFRs to try to create that response. The strength phase right there for neural recruitment. When it comes to specific prep, this is kind of your transition between max strength and power and strength. And so this is kind of a cool spot where you can kind of play around a little bit to kind of find what you need for force production for each athlete in the team in terms of the intensities, the comp prep. This is what we want to be at the end of the season. We want our guys absolutely firing on all cylinders and ready to go. And the interesting thing about the download phase is you can still get up to 80%. So even a recovery workout that we could be doing on a very easy week could be a 3 sets of 3, but still be getting up to 70 and 80%. So there can still be some great development if they're trained in such a high fashion and they have a great background. And this is how you can put it together. So this is from Dan Worth here at the University of Tennessee. He put this chart together, and now you can see on here the level 1 versus the level 4 athlete. And the level 1 would be your newbie. He's probably going to need some more general preparatory phases before he can get into the transitional and strength and power. Whereas a level 4, you got an athlete that's been in your program 3 to 4 years. His periodization is probably going to look a lot differently because he's been through all the years of training. He's built up that base. So he might be more about strength and power conversion or max strength because he knows he can handle it. And we know how important it is to have different variables and stimuli for each different athlete based on what they need to be at their best. And so going back to that first chart where you saw all the numbers and intensities, and periodization schemes, this is what the actual looked like, the actual breakdown looked like from easy. You can see the undulation. I think it's important when you're developing a program, there needs to be for long-term development, an undulation. I think if you do it in the right manner, you can actually get your guys getting near their maxes or exceeding them as the season progresses and towards the end of the season, as long as you have some type of a long-term development. Now, if it was a shorter phase where you don't only have 5 or 6 weeks, it can be more linear. And so I think it's important when you look at down on the bottom is your weeks, and over this side would be a kind of general intensity to show the undulation of the programming. So now let's go back to this program, and I color coded it to kind of show what would be functional and what would be traditional. Functional in blue, traditional in orange. And now you can kind of see it looks like a little bit of a chaos, but I'm going to kind of break it down and go through different sections of it piece by piece. And so I'm going to cut through right to the loaded movement training. And it's pretty neat to kind of see what it looks like, the loaded movement training versus the traditional, and how do you put them together and why do we put them together. First and foremost, individualization. I like to teach our guys to come in prior to the training, and they got to learn what to do with their bodies. They need to learn long term. Hey, we're not going to be there for them all the time and tell them, hey, come in at this time. So I create a series for these guys, and this guy's working on some ankle strengthening right here. He struggled coming in, especially on the left ankle, to be able to create stability and really explode through it. He couldn't even get up on his toes when he got here. So we took and created a program for him that kind of challenged that foot and ankle complex. You can see him reaching all 3 planes of motion in all different ways, and being up on that forefoot to do it. So this is a guy that you hope as he moves forward, he understands his body, and he has a series that in his career, he knows no matter where he's playing, as long as he still have an opportunity, even when he's not, he knows how to take care of his body and be at his best at all times. So that right there was a 3-dimensional reach on the forefoot, challenging that foot and ankle complex. Right here is, now I'm taking out the lower half, and I'm actually taking and putting in the pelvis in vertical core. So now I'm challenging him. You can see he's kind of wobbling a little bit. So I'm taking a pattern that was before a little bit more controlled, and now I'm making it a little bit more reactive. He has no points of stability. And so right there, that was pure sagittal plane. And now I'm going to tweak in the transverse plane. So you can see how the spirals are being loaded and the struggles that he's having to try to complete it. This was the next progression for him, and as the season progressed, he got better and better at it. As we know in the game, there's not stability in the game. It's very an open chain environment, so we need to create those forces and reactions through what we're doing. And also, it was fun to watch the progression throughout the season. Then finally, now after you've challenged it, now you got to make it and put power into it. So right here is a frontal plane hop to a sagittal plane hop. And so right now you're taking all that stability and mobility and translating it into power. And again, when he got here, he couldn't even do that. So it's fun to watch with the point of stability, the growth that he could have in that transition. So now into the programming, meat and potatoes and loaded movement training. Right here, you can see this is number E, and this is our partner reactive split stance reaches. And what we did before that was a bunch of Viper stuff where they're kind of loading in different patterns. It's more controlled. And now I'm going to take, and you know what, we need to have a little fun in it too. I'm going to take the guys and challenge them a little bit to see if the guy who they got to chase can get them out of their pattern and out of their stance, or when the guy can keep reaching. So you can hear as we go here, they're being coached up on what foot up and which hand to reach. And
other hand, ready, go.
It's pretty amazing to watch. You can even see how their feet are just kind of moving and challenging in different patterns. So now it's completely reactive. He doesn't know where the reaction and pattern's coming from. And the best part of it all is these guys have a little bit of fun with this.
Switch hands, go.
Challenge each other. They want to make it tough on each other. And you know what? At the end of this, the best part is they're always going to dap each other up, and there's going to be a smile between each other. So it's a nice little way to challenge a pattern that we all know they're going to be in. You can see in the top corner here, that looks like someone getting down to drive the ball and explode through a defender. And so you're naturally putting them in these patterns and they don't even know it. So there's a fun aspect to it, and you're challenging what they need to do through the pelvis, through the foot and ankle complex, front hip, and all different fascial lines. Right here is a part of our Viper series. So if no one's ever saw the Viper, it's kind of crazy. It's a green tube, and it's kind of cylinder in shape. And this one right here is 12 kilos, or right around 26 and some change pounds. And the crazy thing is, they're just a rubber tube. I wish I would have thought of that idea. Amazing Michelle Delcourt came up with the idea. And the neat thing is, a lot of the times, the guys say this is the hardest thing they do when they start, because they're muscling it the whole time. They're contracting. They're using their muscles to move instead of allowing their ability to create efficiency. So their ability to take and load and drive out, they learn how to speed it up quick, slow it down, and take and rip it back. And right here, you're going to see this is kind of some lateral force development right here. And so he's going to take and he's going to lunge out and he's going to pop that Viper up and across. So you can see the different chains that are being worked. So this, as you can see, is kind of a precursor, a little bit more controlled. I know I'm loading into that posterior hip and giving him helpers so he can drive through the ground out of it. This is a transverse plane drop step twist, and this kind of looks like something maybe a big guy would do. And so you can see right here, he's going to take and he's going to throw that Viper. He's going to rip it, foot hits, and rip it back. And kind of like a leg whip or something that a big would do to kind of get around somebody and explode through. And again, you can see how he's speeding it up or relaxing, then slowing it down quick and speeding it back up. And that actually creates a conditioning standpoint without even having to do conditioning, because it creates efficiency and movement. Now that I've put him in these lateral patterns, I want to challenge those patterns. And the only way to get the true form of agility is through some type of a visual or auditory stimulus. So right now, I'm back here and I'm pointing right or left, and he's got to react and tilt and load and explode back as quick as possible. He doesn't know which way that he's going to end up going. You can see kind of the little bit of hesitation. And it's kind of neat. And sometimes you like to mess with them and have a little bit of fun. And this one gets competitive too. And the neat thing is you can kind of see how guys are reacting. Can they go from the pattern that's more controlled and then put it into the actual true agility and reaction phase? And now this is going to be a little choppy, but this is the traditional stuff. This is what we know. And our media crew did an amazing job filming this. And this is kind of a weightlifting variation. So instead of doing traditional pulls, we're doing some trap bar pulls right here. So you can watch how and listen to how we do it. The guys are setting up. They have a big chest. They're loaded in, and they're driving through the ground. Again, with the force production needed in this game, you have to be powerful and you have to be strong. The other thing we're doing is we're tracking on this. You can see the guy's eyes kind of looking forward in between reps. We're tracking velocities. We're using push here. We're lucky enough to have a lot of technology at the University of Tennessee, and we're tracking velocities. So there's a sense of intent, a sense of competition here. And so you can see the guys competing a little bit with each other. See the guy in the background pointing at the monitor right now saying, hey, you got busted. You got your ass busted. And creating this level of intent within the room, which makes it even more fun. Right here, this is a middle of the pack guy. He's got 415 on the bar, and this is again in season, towards the end of the season, and we're using the velocities and the rep schemes and periodization to be able to hit weights that he's hitting this for a quad, and it's near max weight. And so the velocities are showing that he's within the 80 to 85% band. And so it's pretty neat to be able to have tools like that to watch these guys be able to hit weights and how you can still be strong within the traditional and functional blend. So we've all done contrast training, and the neat thing is we've seen the pairing of jumps and squats and the different blends. But I like to blend them with basketball specific movements. So right here, the neat thing is he's going to do a lateral leap out of the belt. So there's going to be a lateral series here that you'll see in the next three movements. And The neat thing is we have these kajas and they show a wattage, so you can see every time he's looking back at that wattage. And that wattage right here, he has to get within 5% of his best. So the first one's 100%, and from there, every rep right there. So he should have got to 2 and he didn't get it, so he had to do a third. And here comes a fourth. And you know what? At sometimes as a coach, you just got to cut them. You say, hey, that's enough tries. Hit you got push-ups, and you're back in the mix. And so there's a level of competition and a level of intent through the ground with a more basketball specific pattern. So we're creating intent through the traditional movements, and you're also creating intent through the functional movements. So now we're going to add it into a shuffle. We all know how important the shuffle is to defense. So it's just a leap to a leap. And again, he's looking back and seeing, is he hitting his number within 5%? And so as a coach, we a lot of the times don't want to coach effort. And the neat thing is the Kaja creates a tool with the power output that it shows you whether you're getting it done or not. And you got other teammates that are going to be around saying, hey, no, that wasn't it. Wasn't within 5. Nope, not it. Go again. And so it creates a fun little camaraderie and a fun little competitiveness in between the team. Lee Taft talks about this. This is a transverse plane flip to shuffle out. And a lot of the times we think defensively, sometimes we're going to get beat. Say they're in triple threat and they jab and come back the other way and they get you a little bit. And so maybe you have, in this case, he has his right foot up, so he'd be forcing him to the offensive player's right. And you know what? He might have hipped him and came back left. What actually happens is a quick flip and actually a stretch reflex to drive into the shuffle pattern. So say you're at the top of the key, you want to beat him to the elbow. And so it's going to be a quick flip. A lot of coaches think it's a false step. It actually is what happens regardless, reactionary. It's a pattern that we've learned. It's the quickest way to get there. So you'll watch him here is he's going to flip and then shuffle out. And right there, that quick hip flip and stretch reflex gets him into that pattern and that shuffle pattern quick. It's pretty neat to watch the body in the game and how it translates. So I can change the load to change the different force velocity curves. We can go a little bit heavier. We can go a little bit lighter for more power. So it's a pretty neat tool with those guys. We're really lucky to have it here.